The face of a fighter. For James Toney, that face hides the intensity and savagery necessary to survive in a boxing ring. But it also hides a tender, compassionate side for three women in particular. The first is a rarity in boxing, a woman manager, and her name is Jackie Callan.
You know, I love her. It's like my mother, you know, the big sister. We do everything together, you know, me and us kids, we get together, you know, we get along real great. It's fun, you know. It's something you can't really describe. She's like, we're all like one big family. That's what we call ourselves, the inner circle.
I would say that my relationship with James is a lot more than just a fighter-manager. James is my very close friend. He's my little brother. If I needed something, one of the first people I'd call would be James Toney, and I know he'd be there for me, and vice versa.
And then there's number two.
And one more, I can't forget my little sweetheart, Elizabeth. Here's that sign, sweetheart. I'm all right.
Elizabeth is Elizabeth Steelman, a young girl suffering from the crippling disease spinal bifida. She is his biggest fan. She watches him train and comes to all his fights. And finally, the most important is his mom, Sherry, the owner of a specialty bake shop.
Yeah, she's the support, the backbone, takes care of me. You know, she gets up for me 100% on my behalf, and the love.
You know, if James got a problem with something, he'll come to me. So I always told him he can always talk to me about anything. I don't care what it is, let's talk.
They talk most often when James helps his mom in the bake shop. It's these three women that combine to help balance life in and away from the ring. Well, there are two members of this troika. There's Elizabeth on the left and Sherry, James' mother, on the right. And, of course, they're anxious to see their friend and son in this first title defense. Working with me, as always, my partner, Alex Swallow. And talking about that title defense, Alex, only 6 weeks after having won the title. Extremely unusual. Not a whole lot of time to savor that championship.
Dan, James Toney is very unusual in that regard. Most young fighters who beat a huge name like Michael Nunn would sit back and make totally unrealistic money demands for the next fight. James Toney showed that he's smart and he's confident by coming right back only 6 weeks later for a relatively small purse. You see James there in the ring, and you see the outstanding record. His most recent win over Michael Nunn would have been the biggest upset in a major bout in recent boxing history. And anytime a huge underdog pulls off a miracle, he has to prove that it was not a fluke. James Douglas obviously did not do that. James Toney is very eager to prove that he is for real. The opponent, Reggie Johnson, fought his way out of Houston's tough 5th Ward, the same neighborhood that George Foreman came out of. Reggie moved to Los Angeles a couple of years ago and tried to accelerate his career. He has compiled a very impressive record, but he has never met a world-class fighter. And right now, Reggie is overrated by the various sanctioning bodies. Definitely a top 10 middleweight, but Reggie needs a strong showing today to prove that he is a world-class fighter.
Well, both fighters are in the ring. We're ready for the bell to get this thing started when we come back to Las Vegas, the IBF Middleweight Championship.
Is brought to you by Kellogg's, the best to you.
One look at the tail of the tape, you'll see that Johnson's 2 years older than James Toney, but other than that, the numbers all the way down the line, extremely similar. And the referee who gave those instructions, well, a celebrity, if there is such in this way of earning a living, that's Richard Steele, and his last big fight was, of course, the Razor Ruddock, Mike Tyson first bout back in March. Scheduled for 12 rounds, the IBF Middleweight Championship belt owned by James Toney, that, as we talked about earlier, Alex, he has barely grown accustomed to.
James Toney in the black trunks, Reggie Johnson in the white on the right of your screen. Obviously, Reggie is a southpaw. You might think that might present some problems for James Toney, but remember, Michael Nunn was a southpaw, and James has fought 5 other southpaws in his career. Dan, I think the interesting thing to watch for will be the fact that James Toney won the title with a huge left hook, a big power punch. You know, but don't be deceived by the nickname Lights Out and the number of knockouts. He is not a real big one-punch knockout guy. And Michael Nunn was outboxing him, you know, handily before the punch landed. So James must work. He must be busier. He says he knows it.
You can see the Star of David on the left leg of James Toney's trunk. That a tribute to his manager, Jackie Callan, who you met in the piece we showed you on James Toney. Good work inside by both fighters.
And you saw Reggie Johnson being more aggressive than we're used to Reggie seeing. The weakness for Reggie is there's some questions about his chin. He's been down twice already in his career. Neither knockdown was at the hands of a guy considered a big puncher. He was an outstanding amateur and fights in the amateur style. You see hands up very well there. He tends to be a little conservative. Some people say to protect his chin. His management team says he's conservative because he's been ranked #1 and he didn't want to risk that ranking. They think he'll abandon his conservative style here when he has the championship, finally has his championship shot.
Alex, James Toney appears to be distracted by either his trunks or his support belt. Already twice in the first round he has reached down to make an adjustment.
Every time he tries to do that, Reggie should jump on him.
The IBF rules are in place here today. I'll run through them briefly. This will be a fight scored by the 3 judges at ringside. There is no standing 8 count, and there is no 3 knockdown rule in effect, and the bell can only save the fighter in the last round. And only the referee, Richard Steele in this case, can actually stop the fight.
Right off the bat here with about 25 seconds left in round 1, Dan, you can see that Reggie Johnson has not frozen in his world championship fight. That's always a question. Doesn't mean he's going to win the fight, but at least he came out throwing hard punches, not being intimidated by the champion James Toney.
Again, you could see Toney making an adjustment, and a good combination that time by Reggie Johnson as we approach the end of the first round here in Las Vegas. Underway, and a couple of punches were thrown immediately after the bell ending round 1, but it doesn't appear that either one of the fighters is letting it bother them. A lot of feinting by Reggie Johnson on the right, wearing the white. And a good solid first round for Reggie Johnson, Alex, a guy who went off here today as a 2-to-1 underdog.
Yeah, I was very surprised.
Oh! And a big left hand by Reggie Johnson floors Toney. A sweeping left hand drops James Toney here in the second round.
For the first time in his career, James Toney has not only never been down, Dan, I have never seen him hurt in a fight. But he obviously knows what he's doing. He tied Reggie Johnson up effectively. And he is still hurt.
Right now, James Toney fighting his way off the ropes.
And Reggie Johnson still kind of nonchalantly adjusting his trunks.
Toney did a good job of deflecting some of those blows, but a good right hand by Reggie Johnson got through. We're not quite halfway through the second round.
James Toney is fighting a very, very nonchalant fight here, and that is, and who knows what the result's going to find, but he's just not doing anything. He came in and said that he knew he had to do more than he did in the early rounds with Michael Nunn. He's doing much less.
Oh, and a good flurry now by James Toney. Oh, and he missed with a right and ate a left.
A lot of boxing axioms. One of them is, it's a lot easier to win a title than it is to keep it. And if James Toney didn't believe that at his tender age of 22, I think he learned it very early in the second round.
I'm not sure he's had the title long enough, Alex, to become complacent. It's just how many people want what you have.
And again, Reggie Johnson countering. As James Toney lunged in, Reggie rocked back and drilled him with a left hand. I thought for a minute Reggie was getting a little bit too quiet, not going after Toney enough after having him hurt badly early in the round.
Well, Reggie Johnson, who had a very good first round, has had a sensational second round. And right now, as we come to the end of the second, it's been all Reggie. Right on the chin of James Toney. That was early in the second round, and now the third round here is underway.
James Toney's main defensive liability has been his left has been too low. He admits that he tries to mimic Thomas Hearns. He said he was going to change after this fight. He is carrying his left a little bit higher, but it was his right that betrayed him that time.
Maybe he's looking more like Tommy Stearns.
I'm trying to run away from that. You're beating me over the head with it.
Whomever that is.
Yes. There will be a lot of people in boxing, Dan, who will second-guess the decision. Another heavy left hand by Reggie Johnson. Of Jackie Callan and her fighter, James Toney. We congratulated him on it. At the top of the show, there were some people who thought it was too dangerous a fight to come right back in 6-7 weeks after winning the title. Right now, we're wrong. And those people who criticized him were right.
Jackie Callan, one of the very few women managers here in the sport of boxing. And we'd like to remind our ABC stations that at the end of this round that we will be going to a station break. A good left lead to the midsection by Reggie Johnson. He's been scoring consistently with that shot.
Dan, I'm as stunned, really, I think, as James Toney was by the power of that punch. Reggie Johnson has never been known as a guy who had any crack in his punch. He was a guy who was technically adept, was a skillful fighter, but not anybody with a lot of bang.
Well, he has talked before, Alex, about being a conservative fighter, and he said it's by choice, and that he was going to try to break out of that shell here in this fight today, and he certainly at least has done so far.
Reggie not throwing enough right now. He's letting James try to find his rhythm. He's loading up a little bit too much with that left. He found a home for it, but he should be working more with the right jab as he just did. Sometimes when a punch is too easy for you, you have a tendency just to rely on it instead of using what got you there. They're just pushing the right jab, Reggie Johnson on the right of your screen, not snapping it.
James Toney throws him over the top.
And you saw the defensive skills of Reggie Johnson there. That was a very, very nice move.
ABC's Wide World of Sports will return after this word from our ABC stations. Scheduled 4 dozen. To recap so far, it has been Reggie Johnson who surprised James Toney by flooring him in the second round. And he has put together 3 solid rounds up to this point. Good pressure by Toney, but again, Alex, very effective defensive work by Reggie Johnson getting out of the corner.
And Reggie Johnson has the kind of defensive skills to sit on a lead. I mean, to freeze the ball in basketball parlance. And you know, he's out to, on our scorecards, Dan, he's out to a 4-point lead after 3 rounds. James Toney fell way behind against Michael Nunn when he won the title and bailed himself out with a big punch. Spoke about it early, can't rely on that again.
Reggie Johnson's nickname is Sweet. And there's Chuck Bodak, his cutman in the corner, and he's emblazoned with his nickname across the back of that smooth pate.
Chuck is really one of the
and I don't mean Jerry Pate.
He's an outstanding cutman.
Ooh, a good counter combination at time by Reggie Johnson after a wild swing by James Toney.
And despite the amount of experience that James has had against southpaws, he is not effectively cutting off the ring against Reggie Johnson.
James Toney, an outstanding high school athlete. Amazingly enough, he was a quarterback. Not quite the temperament you normally expect a quarterback to have to go on to boxing. And right now, that temperament has Reggie Johnson backpedaling.
That's right. Toney scored a right hand on that exchange along the ropes and followed up with several good scoring punches. As we said earlier, questions about Reggie Johnson's chin. And for a moment there, it looked like it might be betraying him. Toney has not followed up effectively, did not continue the pressure.
There's a good right hand by James Toney after a right and a left by Johnson.
Both men have done their best scoring, except for the knockdown, which was a lead, as counterpunchers. And when that happens, you have a tendency to wait a little bit, and both guys are doing that. Scoring right jab by Reggie Johnson to the head and to the body.
Coming up to the end of the 4th round here in Las Vegas. Stay with us. Return to Las Vegas here for the IBF Middleweight Championship bout between James Toney and Reggie Johnson. Johnson there on your left, Toney on the right. In that last round, Alex, the 4th was James Toney's best round of the fight. Whether or not it was enough to sway the judges or not, I don't know.
In between rounds, Dan, Bill Miller in James's corner said 2 basic things to him. James, don't trail him around the ring. Cut him off and put punches together. And I think part of the reason that James is having trouble putting punches together is the movement by Reggie Johnson. He won't stand still long enough for James to put a combination together. So he's just throwing single punches.
Work your way out. Work your way out.
James tried to line him up with the right hand there.
It's amazing how few guys will sit still and let you do that. I don't understand why a guy won't let you just hit him right on the forehead like that. Again, Toney digs at those trunks. Either his trunks are too big or that belt keeps letting down. A good right hand there by James Toney, and you can see he's got Reggie Johnson stunned.
And Reggie is moving his head well, but I think he might be better advised. Boy, oh boy, James Toney adjusting his trunks there. He's got a man hurt.
And he's adjusting his trunks.
And Reggie Johnson came back with a left-hand lead that made Toney put his arms down and look at him. Like, hey, pal, this is my first title defense. You better start cooperating.
Again, reaching for those trunks. Toney doing a better job here of keeping his gloves up by his head. Some of those big shots from Johnson are actually hitting his glove and driving him into his own head. Alex mentioned Bill Miller. There he is, the trainer of James Toney.
Bill Miller has been with James for his last 6 fights, and if you saw the Nunn fight, you know that Bill was exhorting Reggie to, you got to turn it on, young man. You're losing this thing, and James kept assuring him, I'm okay, he's tiring, and James proved that he knew what he was talking about with that late round knockout.
Well, he could replay the same speech right now. Whether or not there would be the same results, I'm not sure. Good work by both fighters here in the 5th round.
That time you saw Reggie Johnson on the left try to counterpunch, and James Toney tried to counter the counter.
Well, James Toney attempting to mount a comeback. He's trailing, but just had a good round. Johnson moving into the ring. Neither fighter to this point, Alex, it appears that neither one of them appear to have any swelling or cuts or anything that might be a problem later on in this fight.
Each man has landed his fair share of power punches at this point in the fight. The nice thing about these 2 young men, Dan, is, and it's really unusual today, is these are 2 fresh young faces. Usually if you got a young fighter, he's in against a veteran trial horse type of fighter, or he's in with a guy he can beat easily. These are 2 young, competent guys on their way up. It's part of the reason they're not shown. They're not the worse for wear. Here's Reggie Johnson, a place he does not want to be, which is in a corner. He did the smart thing and grabbed and held on, but Reggie needs to use his legs to get out of those positions. And there in his corner is Albert Davila. Whoa! A beautiful move there by Reggie Johnson. I think it was as much a shove as the power of the punch, and perhaps their feet got tangled up. But he definitely went out. He was out of there in a hurry and made a great defensive move.
He sure did.
To avoid the follow-up punch.
James Toney with the right hand went right over the top of Johnson as he was rebounding off the ropes. There was a right hand that sent him there.
Well, was a clean, whether it was a clean punch or not, it clearly signals the resurgence or the stepping up of the resurgence by James Toney.
There was an attempt at an uppercut by Toney. A reminder that later on today we're going to have a report on last night's fight. Alex had a chance to get together with Mike Tyson this morning, plus we'll have pictures of the bout last evening as well. So make sure to stay with us. We'll have that later on here on ABC's Wide World of Sports.
We were talking about Albert Davila in Reggie Johnson's corner. Albert was the former WBC bantamweight champion of the world, a guy who fought all the big names of that division. Was a terrific little fighter. He had one of the great nicknames in boxing history, Albert Tweety Bird Davila. Well, he was a tough little kid. He's a good trainer, solid trainer.
Tweety Bird?
Tweety Bird had all the right advice for his man in between rounds, Dan. You know, put them together. Don't back out with your chin up. Don't get lazy. And pop the jab. Reggie just has not been busy enough. He has not been using that right jab enough. He's got a good one. He's got to stick with it.
This fight is scheduled for 12. If it goes the distance, we're at the halfway mark.
Where the punch there, about a cuff by James Toney, staggered Reggie Johnson back against the ropes, and then you saw the good move by Reggie to get out of the way of the follow-up.
Again, James Toney reaching for those trunks. I guess there's no adjustment Alex they can make, but it's clearly a distraction.
Yeah, I think it's a nervous tick, although it's not one that he's had before.
We haven't seen it in any of his previous fights.
Meldrick Taylor.
A couple of good jabs there by James Toney, and then he followed it up with a right.
Meldrick Taylor sitting behind us, watching the fight. Outstanding Olympic gold medalist and two-time world champion. And Meldrick had the same kind of nervous tick, still has it. But this is new for James. Reggie again waiting too much.
Well, if Julio Cesar Chavez was here, we'd have the trio together again with Richard Steele working this fight.
You know, I must say, Dan, first of all, it's good to see Richard Steele back in the ring. It's right in this ballroom that he first came under a lot of criticism by us and many others for stopping the Julio Cesar Chavez Meldrick Taylor fight. And then, of course, in March 18th, jumping in prematurely, in our opinion, to stop the Tyson Ruddock fight. Since that time, he's had a knee operation. He's worked a couple of fights. You know, he's a solid, competent referee, a world-class referee, who, in my opinion, had a couple of bad nights, and who was also adjusting his trunks right there.
Well, you know what? I want to give credit to the crowd here at the Hilton, who were kind to Richard Steele when he came on the scene to be the referee. He worked a fight here Friday night, the Tommy Morrison fight, and I guess was booed rather lustily by the crowd. And I think the crowd here today showed a great deal more style and a little more dignity towards one of the game's great referees.
And he might have been booed by a few of those people who bet the Chavez-Taylor fight to go the distance.
People like that have long memories, don't they?
Oh, again, Reggie Johnson just waiting too much, and that time he got popped a good punch. James Toney has come back and gotten back into this fight, and I think it's primarily because Reggie Johnson is letting him do it by not being active enough.
James Toney, a fighter by our count, was 4 points behind after the first 3 rounds, has indeed, Alex, mounted a fine comeback.
We're at the halfway mark.
And he appears to be a little more focused, Alex. He almost looked disinterested the first couple of rounds.
You know, second round had to get his attention.
Here we come to the end of the 7th round. James Toney has put his pedal to the metal. The beginning of round number 8. The ballroom of the Las Vegas Hilton. I'm Dan Deerdorf along with Alex Swallow ringside.
Again, a right hand by James Toney.
And we have seen 2 fights. The first part of this fight belonging to Reggie Johnson, and the second part belonging to James Toney, who right now pummeling Johnson up against the ropes.
And an inside right hook hurt Reggie Johnson in that exchange. Made him hold on. Well, technically Reggie can take a shot at a man who's turned his back like that. He chose to do the sportsmanlike thing. And just when James looked like he was taking the fight over, he has one of those strange little walkabouts or whatever it is where he just sits there and takes punches.
An uppercut by Johnson got through.
Looks right now like both men are a little bit winded. James Toney is trying to get some air, and I think if Reggie has something, this might be a time to try to jump on James Toney.
Reggie Johnson trained at high altitude for this fight.
There, good right jab, good stiff, best right jab of the fight by Reggie Johnson. And James Toney is tired. That big flurry early in this round, Dan, took a lot out of him.
Another reminder to our ABC stations that we'll be taking a station break at the end of this round. Another jab. Two jabs get through. Oh, and there was a
no knockdown
by James Toney, and it hit the glove of Reggie Johnson. And alertly, Richard Steele gets in and waves it off. No knockdown.
The way Reggie Johnson looked back, it may be that his foot just went off a very narrow apron here at the Las Vegas Hilton, and his foot just went out from under him. It's a little bit less than a foot apron, maybe just a foot. And Reggie's foot didn't make it.
And that was very solid refereeing by Richard Steele.
Whatever it was a nice thing for James Toney because it allowed him to get a little bit of a breather. And maybe took a little bit something out of Reggie.
There was a good right hand to the chest by James Toney. But Reggie Johnson still has his legs. ABC's Wide World of Sports will return after this word down the line from our ABC station. James Toney, as he has the last 4 or 5 rounds, putting together a real workmanlike effort in the 8th round.
But Reggie Johnson came out here in round 9, and he apparently believes what his corner told him in between rounds, and that is that you're letting him steal the fight. He's tired, and you're not working hard enough. Whether he can sustain the kind of combination punching he showed us in the opening seconds of this round, Dan, I think will really be the key to the rest of the fight.
Well, I mentioned how Johnson had trained at high altitudes at Big Bear Lake at over 8,000 feet, and he does appear to be the fresher of the two. His legs still have spring. He's moving around, but the punches of James Toney are the heavier of the two. Again, another reminder that we have a report coming your way about the Tyson Ruddock fight of last night. That'll be later on in this program.
James Toney again taking the play away.
Jab by Toney scores.
This fight is still up for grabs, Dan. I mean, on our scorecards at least, and you have to think on everybody's scorecard. I mean, Reggie pretty decisively won the first and third round 1-point rounds. The second had to be a 2-point round. I think you can make a case, 4 and 5 were close, but I think you can make a case that James Toney swept the next 5. And if that's the case, then he's up a point right now.
Which is very much up for grabs.
Right. And if Reggie won one of those, you know, the fight's either way. And like so many fights, especially championship fights, it's a matter of which man is the better condition. James Toney did get a second win against Michael Nunn. He did get a second win against Murky Sosa, an unbeaten contender that he was his other outstanding win on his record. I think he needed a second win in round 8, and it's possible that he has more left in his tank right now. Reggie Johnson.
Left hand by Reggie Johnson, Alex. Ooh, and a wild left misses. James Toney overcommits. A little off balance nervous after throwing a wild right. And if I had to pick the fresher of the two right now, it looks like Reggie Johnson. The end of the ninth. Way here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Dan Deerdorf, Alex Walla with you for this IBF middleweight championship fight between Reggie Johnson, the challenger, and James Toney, the 6-week title holder. We just joined us. James Toney took the title by defeating Michael Nunn last month in Davenport, Iowa, in a shocker. A huge underdog. He had an 11th round knockout after trailing on all 3 judges' scorecards.
Get out! Great.
He is making a relatively quick defense of that title only 6 weeks later.
I think it's the 3rd quickest first title defense in middleweight history, Dan. And if he loses his title, he'll be the shortest title holder in middleweight history outside of Sugar Ray Leonard, who gave up his title, didn't lose it in the ring.
He's got a chance to enter the history books in lots of respects. One of the facts, he's the youngest fighter to win a middleweight crown in over 50 years, being only 22 years and 6 months of age. But I don't think that that short title reign is quite what James Toney has in mind.
No, that's not where he wants to get in. I'll tell you, Dan, neither man right now is able to take this fight over. I think it's there for the taking, but neither man has it right now physically to step up and do that. Each man doing their share of scoring in spurts. And there's an ebb and flow to the fight. I thought that Reggie did enough in the early seconds of round 9 and the closing seconds to win round 9 and keep the fight very close.
And there is Elizabeth Steelman, a young lady with spinal bifida who has been befriended by James Toney. He flies her and her family to as many of his fights as he can. They communicate quite often, and she has a very special place in James Toney's heart. And she knows how to play to a camera as well. Quite a cutie there, Elizabeth.
Richard Steele removes a little tape from James Toney's glove. Good left, caught James Toney. I thought he might be a little more hurt than he is. He responded well, shows the right hand to Reggie Johnson and loads it up and fires it. Does not land it.
These rounds are fleeting by, this championship fight, scheduled for the 12-round distance. We only have 2 rounds to go here at the end of the 10th. Let's go to the 11th. James Toney, Reggie Johnson. A little whirly whirl there by Reggie Johnson. Right now, Alex, they have had a couple of rounds back-to-back that can go either way on the judges' scorecard.
Yeah, they might have 6 minutes for a world championship.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you.
You know, judging is so subjective, and we've seen some crazy scorecards, but on our scorecards at least, the winner of these next 2 rounds is a middleweight champion. And that is not a good sign. Reggie Johnson laying on the ropes.
Remember early in the ropes how quickly how quickly he got off the ropes, and how adept he was at slipping underneath Toney and getting out. He's right, now he's standing there and taking.
He spun well eventually in that one, but he didn't let his hands go once he had James on the ropes. Remember, it was the 11th round when James Toney put the lights out on Michael Nunn with a huge sweeping left hook.
We'll have that report later in the show.
And you have to say that neither man is fighting with the kind of determination that you would expect from fighters with a title at stake. It may be that both men are very, very tired. You know, you sit here, it's easy to sit here at ringside and say, oh, why isn't he jumping on him? You know, he can win a world championship and all that. And these are two very competitive young men with a lot of pride, and you have to think the reason they're not is that they're dog tired.
Well, how about the fact, Alex, that they're two young men as well? I mean, Johnson's 24, James Toney only 22. Johnson in his first title fight, Toney obviously in his second, having just won it 6 weeks ago. So not a great deal of experience here in title fights either. But you would think that if you're Reggie Johnson, you know that the other guy has the belt and you don't. And if you're going to win it, you best be decisive in trying to win it.
If Reggie Johnson
willing to tie up
comes up short in this try for the title defense, he'll look back at the tape of this and say, why wasn't I letting my hands go?
We'll be right back with the 12th and final. Well, the crowd here at the Hilton, many of them come to their feet to try to urge their respective fighter on here in the 12th round. James Toney's section begins to chant his name.
Both corners told their men, you need this round to win. Win this round and you're a world champion.
Well, unless there is a knockout or an extremely decisive round here in the 12th, Alex, I think both of these fighters have done something they don't necessarily want to do, and they put it into the hands of the judges at ringside. Who, by the way, I might as well tell you, are Patricia Charman, Rick Bays, and Mike Liana. They are going to be the ones, if this goes the distance, who will decide who wins.
You might see the concentration of Patricia Jarman as the camera comes around. The woman in the red dress sitting at ringside. Look at her leaning down through the ropes, looking up at the two men.
She's either very interested or she's gone to sleep. What do you
big cut.
Oh,
big cut on James Toney.
Over the left eye of James Toney. He's having trouble seeing, Alex.
1:15 left in the round.
Oh, you can see Richard Steele looking at that cut.
And that might be just enough of an edge.
Oh, look at James Toney trying to squint and get the blood out of his eye.
You don't get any points for cutting a man, but Reggie Johnson has a man who is having trouble seeing, and if he can take advantage of it, he is not taking advantage of it yet. Tony did a kind of a macho, you know, come and get me kind of thing, and that might have scared off Reggie Johnson momentarily. But you see him pulling at the blood.
Oh, and a good left hand, that time by James Toney. Step back. He clipped Reggie Johnson's jaw. And even though cut, it's James Toney who's pressing the action.
He has never been cut before.
No hurry. Inside 20 seconds of the 12th and final round. A good, strong finish by James Toney. Don't forget that we'll have a report later in the show about Mike Tyson and Razor Ruddock's fight from last night. We'll also return here to Las Vegas and get the judge's decision. But right now, let's return to New York, and here's Frank Gifford.
Thanks, Dan. That critical.
12, let's take a look at how that vicious cut over the left eye of James Toney occurred. Watch the heads, and boom. Two heads cracked. Now let's go up to Michael Buffer for the decision.
A split decision. Here is the official scoring. Mike Liana scores the bout 114 to 113 for Reggie Johnson. Ricardo Bay scores at 114 to 113 for James Toney. Patricia Jarman scores at 115 to 112 for the winner and still middleweight champion of the world, James Lights Out Toney.
Reggie Johnson disbelieving that he lost a split decision to James Toney, who retains his title. We'll have an interview with James Toney later in the program, plus we'll have a report on last night's fight between Tyson and Redico. Right now, how about